boy. Who's my favorite doggy boy? Good job. You did a good boy. Who did? Good boy. That was good stuff. Yes, you're good, baby. Oh, yes, he is. He is just a darling. Yes, he is. We are so proud of the good boy. Recall, a sit, and then a send away from a social situation. So we've done a little bit of the recall and we've done a little bit of the sit. We're going to continue on that as the days go on, but then we're going to put him in social situations and be able to teach him not everything's for him, and that he can be sent out and be told to disengage with a social situation, which is huge for every dog, especially him, because he's involved. That's where the barkings come from. The barking's coming from him deciding how to deal with everything. He hears something, this is how I deal with it, I bark. I see something, this is how I deal with it, I bark. The barking is a symptom of the core issue. The core issue is that he's deciding how to respond, meaning he's not being led. He's leading that particular scenario all day long, and he's not following the direction of his human leader, right? Which would be, when you see that, don't make any noise and ignore it, for probably 99% of the barks, right? So the problem is he's trying to lead himself. He does have confidence, but that's because he's never been challenged before, right? I challenged him. He's naturally a confident dog. I think he's pretty good upstairs, so that's good. Experienced, so that means he's a little insecure in situations, so he overreacts. Normal. Also because he's small, they tend to overreact, right? Because they're so small. They have to project themselves so the other dogs don't, step on them or something. So a lot of that barking is him alerting to the pack, him dealing with the situation, or probably even him, he might protest bark. He was doing that earlier, where he was like, get me off from this tie back, or demand barking, open that door, get me something. So the cool thing is, I'm going to become his pack member now, and hierarchically, I want him to know that I can say no to things. I'll show you that I disagree with certain behaviors while you do them. I'll see you do it, and I'll say, hey, I disagree with that. And then I'll punish you if you do it again. And I'll put that on repeat. So we did that with the barking. It's like, I don't like the barking. So he barked again, punishment, right? And I keep that on repeat until the important thing is that early on he's learning that, oh, this guy, this human or this animal, this is how he says he doesn't like something. This is how he corrects when he doesn't like something. And also, if I listen to him, this is how he responds. He shows me his soft side. He shows me his approval. So he learns me, right? That's one part of the training, learning I'm going to be the model and the example of how to treat a human, right? The other part is environmental. We need him to just learn what the do's and don'ts are of living in the human world, right? Knock at the door. Generally speaking, most people don't want to bark, so I want to say no to that. Barking, demand barking, that's going to be, he's a barker. That's why I keep saying barking, because that's the number one complaint. But really, the barking is just a symptom of a dog who's not a follower yet to a human. That's a big part of his problem, because when I came in and started telling him what to do, he was like, no, right? He's like, you're gonna have to earn that. And when I pushed him a little further, he got snappy, snippy. So biting, right? So he can bite under pressure, especially early on, because he doesn't know the coping skills. He doesn't know the way out of conflict, because he's not put in conflict, first of all. And the fake conflict that he puts himself in when he's barking at somebody who comes up to the door, like the mailman who goes away, that was never a real thing anyway, even though he feels powerful because he got that mailman to walk away, or he got that person to walk away, or he got those dogs to continue walking. So he's having all these fake kind of false confrontations, and he's feeling like he's winning them. So he's like, I'm 200-0, man. And then he comes here and he has his first real conflict with somebody, and he realizes, barking doesn't work, and now this guy's coming forward at me, and he panic and bite, right? And then I have to submit him, which is the best thing for him, is to learn when you strike at another living thing, they can submit if they're a pack member. The submission is important because it tells him, although you're striking at me, and although I'm submitting you, I don't want to kill you. This is animal talk, all right? You got to put your political brain aside for a second and think behaviorally and naturally, meaning the natural world, the way where the dog lives, where the animals live. If I'm submitting you, that means I don't want to kill you. I don't want to harm you, but I don't like what you're doing, and you struck at me, and I want you to know that, you know, when you strike at me, this is what happens. This is the aversive outcome. But if you relax, if you submit, if you calm, I will leave you alone. That is it. As long as you don't confront me, growl at me, bark at me, try to bite me, we're good in that regard. So he has to learn that. They usually learn that with their pack. They will learn that amongst their siblings if they stay with them long enough to do it with another dog. But to break that species barrier and have them understand that a human can submit and they can follow a human's direction is really important. I do believe that was missed with him. I don't think he's really takes humans' directions, because he looks at us like, he doesn't even know me, but he's treating me like every other human. I'll talk to him and he'll be like, pfft. He's like, I don't need you. Go do something useful. Get me something to eat, you know? He doesn't respect humans, because the humans that he's known, he hasn't had a reason to, right? So, first thing I did was corrected barking, which led to a battle of wills. Then he semi-submitted to me. I would say he submitted to that situation. I didn't have him submit to me. Usually we do that socially. But then when he struck at me, that's when I went for him submitting to me, because that's reason enough. So we had a submission, and then on top of that, we did some recall, and we did a little bit of stay. And that's how we're going to keep it, other than the kennel stuff, to teach him how to go into the kennel and stay in the kennel and all that.
The kennel was a big area at home where they did see these behaviors. They said every time they put him in and would close the door, he would turn around and growl at them.
Okay.
Probably because he feels most confident in the kennel.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. They feel more protected, like you can't really get to me, right? It's like somebody having road rage and they're flipping you off and they're in their car, and then they get out of the car and it's a whole different story. Right?
And they also said if he wants to come out, it's fine, but if he doesn't want to come out of that kennel,
right. And
that's
so
a bite risk.
This is also the core issue. This all comes down to, we talk about this a lot, but so the symptoms is, the growling is also a symptom, in my opinion, because we haven't had a conversation about hierarchy and how to treat me and what happens in conflict, because we avoid that as dog owners, as modern dog owners, we're avoiding conflict. Where this guy then sees that as a weakness. We're not doing it because we're weak, we're doing it because we just want to enjoy our dog, meaning we don't want to have anything that's unpleasant, meaning conversations of having to correct stuff we don't like. Because if we did that to him, that's what we'd be doing all day for a few weeks, you know? But we avoid that conflict, so our dog never learns that when we say no, we will bring it to wherever we bring it, an aversive outcome, and you can avoid that by listening to us. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So they don't have that. So let's say that didn't happen. So now whenever we say no to something, they're never going to be motivated to listen unless we use the other end of the spectrum, which isn't punishment, which is reward, and we say, hey, if you do this for me, I'll give you something you like. And only using that conversation will leave a dog feeling like when conflict shows itself, which means it could be anywhere. I want you to come out of the kennel and you don't want to. Conflict. I want you to go in the kennel and you don't want to. Conflict. I want you to stop barking but you won't. Conflict. If we actually enter that conversation and say we're putting our foot down and we have what we call aversive control, meaning we have a way to correct that we know is effective with him, then we can say no to something and then apply that punishment and allow the dog to connect the dots. When we say no, if you stop, you're good. If you keep going, here's an aversive. That makes us what a lot of dog trainers refer to as relevant. It means your voice is relevant. It's a sound that your dog is listening for because they want to avoid the punishment of not listening. That's it. It's all it is when it comes to relationship right there, okay?